Hi,
From
this
Wish
is Tyler
TV
Conway,
and the
and this
All
is your
Indiana
News 8 Daily
Podcast
for
Network.
Thursday,
This
October
is the
13th.
News 8
We're going to stay
Daily
dry
8
today,
Podcast with
but
Wish
cool.
TV's Kylie
Highs
Conway.
could manage to get into the low 60s.
Update.
The interesting part of the storyline here is how dry it is outside, and there is now a warning not to burn anything today because of an increased fire danger. So the rain that we did get yesterday just wasn't quite enough. And we have breaking news this morning. Indianapolis police say that a man is in custody after a police shooting. We know officers were responding to a domestic dispute. Officers arrived. They were confronted by a man with a gun. At least one officer fired a shot. No one was injured. It happened around 4:30 this morning at the George Apartments on Sebring near 56th in Georgetown. Police say the domestic dispute was between an ex-boyfriend and girlfriend. They say the female victim is safe and unharmed. The suspect is a 30-year-old man who is now in custody. You can follow wishtv.com for all of the latest developments. An overnight shooting in Indianapolis left a man dead. Officers found the victim at 33rd and Denny and say they stopped someone who could be connected to the shooting a few blocks away. Police haven't released any information about the victim or what led up to the shooting. Investigators say a West Side argument brought out police, then led to a shootout when officers left. Police say it started with an argument at the Wendy's restaurant yesterday evening on West Washington near Lyndhurst. Officers spoke to the people involved and say everyone agreed to go their separate ways. Instead, police say the group ended up outside the Kroger next door and got into a shootout. The gunfire left a woman critically wounded. IMPD says someone drove her to a hospital in Avon, and later a helicopter took her to a trauma center. Investigators say they know the identities of everyone involved in the fight and gunfire. And we had more breaking news this morning. The Bureau of Labor Statistics released this morning its Consumer Price Index report. They were numbers that we were expecting, just didn't know what those numbers would be. It showed what experts actually did predict, that they rose 4.4% in September. That is 0.4% higher than last month. 8.2% higher from this time last year, just showing you how big those inflation numbers have gotten. The biggest contributors are healthcare, auto repair, and housing, among others. Obviously, we've all seen our grocery bills dramatically inflate. The cost of eyeglasses and eye care, for example, jumped 3.2% from August to September. That is the sharpest one-month increase on record. And in response to rising costs, this morning, the Social Security Administration announced a historic increase in benefits for millions of retirees. 70 million recipients will get an 8.7% boost next year. That means the average recipient will get more than $140 extra a month beginning in January. It's the biggest increase that baby boomers have ever seen. Medicare Part B premiums will also drop 3%. The administration says it hopes this will give seniors more peace of mind and some breathing room. Research at IU leads to a possible way to cut down on head injuries in youth football without getting rid of the sport altogether. News 8's Cody Adams breaks down the study.
IU researchers just published in the journal Pediatrics. That research shows that limiting contact drills could lower those head injuries. According to the CDC, 63% of concussions happen during tackling. Researchers studied games and practices for 3 high school teams in the Midwest in the 2021 season. Players wore mouth guards with sensors in them. Researchers recorded 7,312 head impacts among the 74 players in that study. That's about 66.5 hits per student. Linemen caught the brunt of the head hits. There were the fewest head hits when the kids practiced drills without contact. In 85 hours of non-contact drills, there were about 310 head impacts overall. Now, for comparison, in 115 hours of thud drills, where players train at high speeds and restrict contact to above the waist, there were 3,360 head impacts. That's about 10 times the amount for the non-impact drills. It's not just the youth and high school level that head injuries are being taken more seriously. Just recently, we saw Colts running back Nyheim Hines take a scary hit on Thursday Night Football against the Broncos, in which he could hardly walk off the field. NFL Chief Medical Officer Dr. Alan Sills says there needs to be a more cautious approach taken.
We want to become even more conservative, and if we think that ataxia is present, let's just go ahead and assume that it's coming from the brain, and we'll hold someone out, because if we're going to be wrong, we'd rather hold someone out who doesn't have a brain injury, but we're being cautious, than to put someone out who might have a brain injury and we weren't able to diagnose it.
Football is the most popular sport amongst high school boys, with nearly 1.5 million playing the sport across the country. Now, researchers say in order for this study to be effective, those coaches do need to adhere to the data. Reporting in Indianapolis, Cody Adams, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth.
Hundreds of people gathered to remember a Purdue University student killed in his dorm room. Family, friends, students, and staff met for a vigil last night on campus to honor Varun Cheda. Purdue's president, Cheda's parents, and friends all spoke.
I learned a lot from him, but too because he was just a genuinely really good dude.
I say this without exaggeration, but I believe Vern is the smartest person I've ever met.
He was very humble. He had a very kind personality, despite being pretty smart. A very gentle personality. He never in life really made any real enemies.
An act of brutality and violence in a place so peaceful and so safe as this one is just not supposed to happen.
Cheda was a senior data science major from Indianapolis, and Cheda's roommate could face formal charges in his killing today. Jeeman Shah is scheduled for a virtual hearing this afternoon at 2 o'clock at the Tippecanoe County Jail. The county clerk's office expects prosecutors will then file formal charges. Shah apologized to the victim's family in court Friday. He said he was blackmailed, but didn't elaborate. Police say Shah called 911 and told the dispatcher that he had killed his roommate with a knife. Abortions can continue in Indiana for at least 3 more months on a new move from the state Supreme Court. The court has decided to take up the conflict over the state's new ban, skipping steps in lower courts. Abortion providers are suing, saying the ban violates the right to privacy guaranteed in the state constitution. A judge issued an injunction against the ban last month. Indiana's Attorney General asked the High Court to skip the Court of Appeals and hear arguments on the issue. And that is now set to happen January 12th. Planned Parenthood and the ACLU of Indiana released a statement calling the decision to keep the block on the ban a tremendous relief. The leader of Indiana Right to Life says he is deeply disappointed in the court. Today, the final scheduled public presentation from the Congressional Committee investigating the Capitol attack. It appears the focus will be squarely on what former President Donald Trump did or did not do leading up to the insurrection as it happened. A new report from the AP says the committee will unveil new information and delve into Trump's state of mind. Unlike past hearings, committee members do not plan to call live witnesses, but will share information from recent interviews, including testimony from Jenny Thomas, the conservative activist who's also wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. It's also widely reported that the committee will reveal more information about the movements of former Vice President Mike Pence January 6th. Today's hearing is set for 1 o'clock this afternoon. Jurors in 2 trials have now ordered conspiracy theorist Alex Jones to pay the families of Sandy Hook shooting victims more than $1 billion. Yesterday's $965 million verdict in Connecticut came from a defamation lawsuit filed by the victims' families and an FBI agent who responded to the shooting. Parents testified that they were threatened and harassed for years by people who believed the lies told on Jones's show. Jones says he now believes the shooting was real, but he says he had a right to publicly question whether it happened. He was not in court for the verdict, but reacted on his show InfoWars, calling it a show trial. His lawyer is vowing to appeal. A Texas jury in August ordered him to pay $50 million to the parents of another child killed in the massacre. He now faces a 3rd trial in Texas. And to business headlines. Americans will pay the most in 25 years to stay warm this winter. The Energy Information Administration says households will see a nearly 30% increase in natural gas and heating oil costs. The EIA says U.S. households face an average power bill of $1,359 this winter. The USDA projects tighter corn, soybean, and wheat supplies, ending stocks of both corn and soybeans are below the AG department's projections last month. Kohl's says all of its stores will once again be closed on Thanksgiving Day. Target and Best Buy will be closed as well. Walmart hasn't announced a decision yet. And Amazon shoppers are largely skipping pricey purchases during the company's Prime Sale sequel, favoring pantry items and affordable gifts over big-ticket items like televisions and laptops. The average order size as of yesterday afternoon was $46.44, down 23% from the Prime Day sale in July. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update on demand for even more on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.